Our next honoree, Sharon Lerner, is an investigative reporter at ProPublica, where she covers health and the environment. Before that, she was a reporter at the Intercept, focusing on environmental crime and regulatory failures. Her stories have appeared in The New Yorker, The New York Times, The Nation, The Washington Post, among other esteemed publications. Personally, I've heard from residents in dozens of PFAS-impacted communities all across the country about their worry, their anguish, and their frustration. Sharon shares their stories and more through powerful, impactful journalism that reaches large audiences. You may have seen her recently on The Daily Show, where she talked about her latest piece in The New Yorker about a young chemist at 3M who discovered that PFAS were widespread in people's blood, only to have her results covered up and to have her own credibility questioned. Sharon is fearless in her reporting, unafraid to ask hard questions, dig deep into the science, and shine a spotlight on the abuses of power. And I cannot think of a journalist more deserving of this honor. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. It's an honor to be here. And I appreciate the ability to connect with this organization officially, which I've admired for a really long time. So thank you. I'm really grateful and honored. It's particularly touching for me to receive an award named for Rachel Carson, who, of course, as we know, in addition to being a scientist and an activist, was also a journalist. And a few years ago, a friend of mine gave me a little needlepoint thing that says, "Kill joy." He was talking about me, and I wasn't offended. I actually hung it in my office. And that's because I know the things that I write about are unpleasant and it's sort of a bummer. And most people don't want to talk to about them, with the exception of everybody who's here tonight. This is the only, the only cocktail party where anyone actually really does want to hear about my work. So as Laurel mentioned, one of the things I've written quite a lot about is PFAS compounds. My first stories were in 2015, and they were about PFOA, which was the pollutant that was in the water near the DuPont plant in West Virginia. And that was the story that Dark Waters was about. After I did that story, I soon realized that, and this was 2015, that PFOA and related chemicals were also in the water near a 3M plant in Minnesota. And also in the water and in the soil near hundreds of military bases. And in the beginning, it felt like that, reporting on this spot and this spot. And I remember when I first saw the EPA database that did national monitoring on PFAS levels in water around the country, and I realized, it wasn't these like fluke neighborhoods, it was essentially everywhere. And after writing more than 60 stories about PFAS, I still find that really hard to grasp. The difficulty is not just accepting how monumentally these chemicals have altered the earth and the biology of pretty much every creature on it, all of us in the room included. Perhaps even more disturbing to me is that this irreversible planetary change was avoidable. From the beginning of my reporting on PFAS, I have fixated on this point, this idea that this didn't actually have to happen and to be this way. At 3M and DuPont, two companies I've focused on a lot, some men, and I use that term advisedly, had known for decades that these compounds were toxic, that they were accumulating in people's bodies, and that they were leaking out of their facilities. They also knew that they didn't break down in nature. But both companies decided to continue selling them because it was profitable. And it's not just 3M or DuPont or just PFAS for that matter. In the past decade, I report more broadly than PFAS. I do all sorts of environmental reporting, and this pattern is a familiar one, unfortunately. I've written story after story about companies hiding damning information and commissioning science that makes their chemicals seem safer than they are, and attempting to silence scientists who speak out and present unfavorable studies. And that would include Rachel Carson. Plastic manufacturers, same thing. Pesticide companies also have invested heavily in creating their own scientific narrative. I could go on, but I won't. It's enough to say that it is a pattern, and I have plenty of work for the rest of my life if I keep writing about this. And in addition to the way that the businesses operate, I've also focused on how they influence the EPA, how pesticide companies in particular are entwined with a government agency that's supposed to be regulating them. Before this Gala, I was thinking about why am I so interested in this subject and sort of the horror story part of it. What is it that makes it feel so important and scary to me? And I think the thing that draws me to it is that it's clear what should have happened in these situations, right? And what still needs to happen. We need independent, unconflicted science and scientists who can study the chemicals and see how they affect people and report it objectively. And we need their findings to be out in the open and explained clearly to the public. And this, of course, is what Silent Spring does. And so it's really just an honor to be here, to be part of their work and to honor their work. They are combing through the chemicals on the market to see which ones cause breast cancer, how they affect cells, which are in certain products, and take all that research and explain it to the public. So for me, it makes the world a slightly less scary place, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for this. Thank you.